Satnam. In his book, Mind Body Prescription, Dr. John Sarno talks about the phenomena of the prevalence of different conditions in the United States. During the 1930s and 40s, it was very common for people to suffer from ulcers. And when the connection was made between stress levels and ulcers, the frequency of ulcer diagnosis started to decline. And then in the 1980s, there was a rise in incidences of lower back pain. And that gave way to incidences of carpal tunnel syndrome. Currently, fibromyalgia is on the rise. This diagnosis, which simply describes a set of conditions in the body involving a lot of pain and difficulty sleeping and concentrating. So I thought that we would spend a little extra time specifically on the condition and the subconscious belief patterns that give rise to that condition. So there are 3 different common scenarios growing up that would create sort of a perfect storm, if you will, as an adult to experience the symptoms of fibromyalgia. And I'm just going to go through each one of them, and this may or may not resonate with you. And if it does, you might find a clue as to how to free yourself from the challenges, from the pain of fibromyalgia. So one common scenario is simply feeling completely worn out. And you may have, in fact, run yourself absolutely ragged, pushing beyond your own physical, mental, and emotional limits. And the reason for doing something like that is perhaps this fear of not being good enough. A core belief that came from a family in which there was very much a perfectionist parenting style that was impossible to humanly meet, that you never could quite do something good enough to please the family. And so if you have that program in you, that is what we tend to recreate as adults. We're always pushing. We feel we're not quite good enough. It's got to be better. It's got to be more, just simply to be accepted. And it's an entirely false belief, but we operate from that belief. And simply being able to acknowledge, to have the awareness that, yes, I grew up thinking that was true, right? Having that awareness of that can help you begin to loosen the grip of that belief on your life now, right? And then once the belief has been released, then there's no need for the pain anymore because you're not in danger, right? Pain always comes when the mind senses some kind of danger. So if the danger is, I'm not good enough, I won't do this well enough, I can't be perfect enough, then pain will come. So if you shift the belief that I don't actually have to be perfect in order to be safe, that might not have been true growing up, but it is true now. When you have that belief firmly instilled in your mind, there will be no reason for the mind to sense danger. There will be no reason for the mind to create the sensation of pain. The next common scenario is an intense self-distrust. It's very similar to the first scenario in that we feel we're not competent. We don't have confidence in ourselves, and we have a difficulty manifesting into reality our ideas. We feel very inhibited about expressing ourselves, and we're very careful about the things that we do. Every little thing we do, we're on sort of a high level of vigilance Again, it's a bit of that perfectionism. I have to do everything very carefully. I kind of have to tiptoe through my life. And that stems from the kind of family that required, for the family's benefit, that you be a certain way and not be yourself, not be your true self. Growing up, that you felt that the family wanted you to act and be different from what was your real self. So, as an adult, we have control over who we live with and how we behave. Someone else is not in charge of our well being. We can take care of ourselves. We don't have to mold ourselves the way that we sometimes do have to as children who are entirely dependent on our caregivers. But now we don't have to mold ourselves to be different from how we were designed to be. We don't have to distrust our own unique essence. But because it might have been dangerous to do that in this earlier time, we had this scenario where we constantly had to betray ourselves, to betray our truth. And if someone betrays you enough, you don't trust them, right? It's very natural. So as an adult, practicing staying true to yourself, practicing not giving away your power, practicing listening to that own inner voice, you begin to trust yourself again. You don't betray what's real and true about yourself. And there won't be that sense of danger. There won't be that sense of, I can't trust myself. Right? So more and more you show up for yourself. You befriend yourself, and the mind feels there is no danger. And the third way is when you have made that discovery, and now you're connected to your true self, your purpose in life, and you're done with people pleasing, and you're going forward. You're changing the way you interact with the world. You're embracing what's unique about yourself, and you want to express that, share that gift with the world. If you've got that program that that's not okay, deep embedded in your mind, it's not okay to be yourself. From that belief may come a completely unwarranted but strong feeling of guilt that you're doing something terribly wrong. You're wanting to push through that stuff, but the program is still there. And so you're doing something wrong, and that's dangerous, and it also is bad. That's the way the mind works. So therefore, it must be punished. And pain is the punishment. So it goes back again to really examining what happened back then. What is the belief? Making yourself very aware of it so that it loses its foothold in your mind. It loses its power over us. And through that awareness, and also meditation practices, yoga practices, moving into new realms physically, right? It loses control. It's very easy to get caught up in the idea of victimhood or victimization if there's been this kind of controlling family growing up. And that the idea that, well, I can't be happy because this is what happened, or this is how my parents were, is completely false. It reminds me of something that Elie Wiesel, the great peace activist and Holocaust survivor, said. He said that no one is more grateful than the one who has emerged from the kingdom of darkness. So the trick is to emerge. You quite possibly grew up in essence in the kingdom of darkness. But as an adult, you can live wherever you choose. and coming into that place by having had the opposite experience, because truly we only know anything by its polarity. You can embrace your freedom with so much more gratitude, right? You can feel your happiness so much more deeply. We need to go through that process sometimes of sadness, recognize, okay, this happened, if we've been living in denial, and go ahead and feel as sad as is necessary for you to move through it. It's very important not to numb ourselves out and say, oh, that was no big deal. Just my dad was an alcoholic, whatever, whatever it was. Feel the sadness, because we can only laugh, I think, as hard as we can cry, right? We can't just allow in certain things and not others. If we form a wall around ourselves, then nothing gets in, right? So allow the sadness to come. It will leave you. Feel it as deeply as is necessary to feel it, so that the joy can come to really, truly emerge from that kingdom of darkness. Is that now?